During Harry Truman's presidency, from a few minutes after 7 p.m. on April 12, 1945, until noon on January 20th, 1953, he never took a poll. No member of his staff ever took a poll. And his attitude toward polls is best reflected in what he wrote in his diary, a diary which none of us discovered until after his death, but he spent a great deal of time in understanding Harry Truman. You have to read some of the things that he wrote in his diary and also some of the unsent letters that he used to blow off steam from time to time about certain individuals that irked him. Here's what he wrote about polls in his diary. I wonder how far Moses would have gone if he had taken a poll in Egypt. What would Jesus Christ have preached if he'd taken a poll in Israel? Where would the Reformation have gone if Martin Luther had taken a poll? It isn't polls or public opinion of the moment that counts. It is right and wrong and leadership. People with fortitude, honesty, and a belief in the right that makes epochs in the history of the world. This enabled Harry Truman to face the adverse polls during the 1948 campaign with a great deal of equanimity, because he realized and appreciated that these polls were not as important as what happened at the November election. Polls, of course, had increased in sophistication since the days in 1936 when the Literary Digest poll predicted that Alf Landon was going to upset FDR. And as you all know, the Literary Digest poll was based on telephones, and only at that time did the upper crust, namely people who tended toward the Republican Party, own telephones. But by 1944, polls had become much more sophisticated. Elmo Roper came within within 0.3% of predicting the election of 1944. So people throughout the country were somewhat mesmerized by the polls and the fact that 90% of the newspapers throughout the country, particularly the big city newspapers, were predicting that certainly Thomas E. Dewey would be elected. Truman faced a very bleak background when he went into the campaign of 1948. In the first place, you know, as most presidents take office, they've usually had a couple of years to line up support for the nomination at their party convention, after which they have an opportunity during an extended campaign from Labor Day until November to size up the people that they intend to appoint to their staff and cabinet. And then there's a period between November and January 20th when they have a further opportunity. But Harry Truman was thrust into the presidency with only 2 hours' notice. He was attending a little meeting of Speaker Sam Rayburn's Board of Education, as he called it, and about 5 o'clock the news came that he was to call the White House immediately, and a little after 7 p.m. he was sworn in, immediately confronted with some of the most awesome problems and decisions that had to be made. He had hardly taken the oath of office when he was asked if he was going to continue the United Nations conference at San Francisco. And after that, of course, he had to get ready for the Potsdam meeting with Stalin and Churchill, later when Churchill was replaced by Attlee, and to make the decision on the use of the atomic bomb.